Well, hello, my Let's Talk Tuesday friends. It is Tuesday, June 2nd. It is my little neighbor's sixth birthday today. I actually, my husband and I, Ben and I, have to go over there to deliver um, a very patient 6-year-old's birthday present tonight. So, hey, Christopher, so good to see you. So I may not be on as long as I usually ramble on about, but every time I say that, Diego and I joke, every time I say that, I end up going longer than normal. So we'll see if that happens. Hi, Carolyn, Seattle. I love it. Pacific Northwest, another PNW buddy. So beautiful day today. I've had a crazy couple of weeks. Just really, it's so in casting, the production cycle of casting, there's always kind of you're working towards getting everything done, and there's almost always this point at which it gets really intense because everybody's doing a million things and all the balls are rolling and you got to get it all done and bring it together. And that's where I've been on this project Abilene, but they started shooting for their first time today. It was day one of production on Abilene in upstate New York. So congrats to the Abilene team. Not that any of them are watching because I think they're probably still shooting for the day. Oh no, it's 2 hours later. So anyway, it's been a really intense couple of weeks, but it's also exciting when you see everything coming together and all the puzzle pieces coming together. And I still have a couple of roles that we are looking for, but they're local hire upstate New York roles. And so I'm searching. We'll get them filled in time. We always do. That's how it is, right? Whatever deadline we have, you you have to get it done just because you don't have any other option. So hi, Allie. Great to see you. Hello, Adam. Always nice to see you. And hi, Buddy. And is it too late to submit for Abilene? Adam, yes, it is. Excuse me. Um, Unfortunately, but to be honest, I'm not sure there was a role that would have been right for you. I have the pleasure of knowing you pretty well. So I'm not sure there would have been one that was the right fit for you, but yeah, they started shooting today. We have almost all of the roles filled, but I'll go back. I'm working with wonderful local casting directors in the area, and they're handling several of the roles. So I'll go back through all of them and make sure that I'm not missing anything. And if there is something that makes sense to put out to you guys, I certainly will. Hi, Bonnie and Monica. Hi, Monica. We have an appointment soon. I'm excited about that. Hi, Erin from Detroit. I've only been to Detroit once. Everywhere I've been, it seems because of some project. So I did a project in more of the Flint, Michigan area, but we cast out of Detroit. So I visited Detroit a little bit, not a ton, but just a little bit. Hi, Blake and Deborah and Rod. Good to see you. Yes, Erin. Let's see. Anne, hi. Good to see you. Hi, Caitlin. All of you guys. It's so good to be back with you. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to connect with you last week. As I mentioned, it was quite intense last week. I had to go to Diego and say, Diego, I'm buried, I'm swamped, and my brain can't can't handle another bit of input. So I would have just been kind of a rambling mess. And not that I'm not all the time, but I would have been an especially rambling mess last week. So yeah, tonight, ask any questions you have. I didn't come to the table with any sort of pre-agenda. I wanted to be open to any questions that you guys might have, since it's been a little bit before since I've been able to just answer questions. So if you have any, please, please, please ask them. I'm watching the comments, so I'll make sure to keep my eye on those. It's interesting. So today I was doing a coaching with someone that I've been able to do multiple sessions with, which is great because it's so nice. We can build on each session, kind of go a little further and a little further. But it was interesting because the topic we were talking about grounding a performance in reality. Tara, that is awesome. Tara Langton got signed to a talent agency here in Texas today. Tara, that's awesome. Good for you. And I'm glad you can relate to my ramblingness. Okay, so anyway, we were talking about it was a character that was very different than what he would normally be called in for. It was not his typical type. And so we were talking about, how do you connect to a character that is not very much like who you are naturally, and that feels maybe more disconnected, but yet that you need to ground it in reality. You need to connect to that character. You need to find some honest touch points and connection points as a starting place from which to build something that will feel grounded and real and honest. And we talked about that idea of sometimes actors spend too much time, especially I think when it's a character that you don't immediately see a pathway to. You start trying to second guess what casting wants or what the director wants. And so your mind goes to, well, I'm not really sure how to connect to this. So you start thinking, well, what do they want? Do they want this kind of a version, or do they want this kind of a version? The problem with that is that's never going to lead you to a place of honest performance or a confident, grounded performance, because you're constantly wondering about this secondary person and what they want, and you'll never know what they want. You'll never be able to answer that question with 100% accuracy. So you're left just guessing. And that's not a really strong place to build a character from, or to build a performance from, a place of, I'm guessing this is what they want, or I'm guessing this is the character traits that are important. You want to build the character from something that is real, that is grounded, that you understand and that you connect to. And so we were talking about, okay, the description for the character, there are a couple of keywords that we honed in on. One was paranoid, and another one was manic. This particular person, those are not qualities you would typically assign to him naturally. And so I said, well, in your entire life, have you ever felt paranoid? And he thought about it for a second. Then he actually came up with a scenario in which he felt and understood real paranoia. And I said, okay, thinking about that situation that he had actually experienced, what did that feel like to you? What was your body's response? How did that manifest itself in you physically. And they named off several things. And I was like, I said, that's it. That's your connection point. One of them was sleeplessness, this sense of not being able to rest because the paranoia kind of takes over and you're not able to let your mind rest. I said, that's great. Then that's an option. You can play the character as if he hasn't slept for 2 days. It doesn't say that in the breakdown. It doesn't say that specifically. But for him, a way into the character to an honest, grounded portrayal was to connect to his version of paranoia. And see, and this is where it comes in that everybody's character, everybody's version of the same set of sides and the same character will be different if you connect back to a place that's real for you. So his experience with paranoia, his experience with how that manifests in his own physical body and what that felt like, his sense memory of what that felt like, will be different than my version of paranoia. But we would both then have a version that felt real and honest for us, but also unique to us. So in going back to really kind of a couple of those base elements, we were able to find a touch point on which to build this character and scene and to understand it and to be able to relate to it because he found a common point. And I guess I want to tell you, always go back to the point of honesty. If you're questioning, if you're not sure how you should be approaching a character, you're not sure like why it's feeling off, always take yourself back to the honest point of connection to that character. And if you don't have one, you need to find one, because that's where the character should start, is in a place of truth, a place of understanding that's real for you, rather than you trying to emulate or imitate somebody else's version of paranoia or somebody else's version of manic. You need to find your own version of paranoia and manic. And that's how performances become unique. That's how you turn in something that no one else can turn in. Will it always be right? Will it mean you get the role? No, not necessarily. But it will always mean that you turn in a performance that is honest and real and believable and interesting, and not cookie cutter and not surface level, sort of trying to guess what somebody else wants. So that's my initial thought from my session earlier today. Okay, I see a couple of comments. And how's Aveline going? Sheila Munger is on set. Love her and her family. Oh, I didn't know she was on set. That's awesome. Yeah, I actually haven't looked at the full crew list, so that's really cool. Yeah, they started shooting today. So I hope the first day went well. I haven't had an opportunity to touch base with anyone, but I also didn't get any frantic messages that, something went crazy wrong. So I'm just going to trust and believe that they had a good first day. I know it's a wonderful group of people. The producing team, the directors are great. I love the cast that we've brought together. So I have very high hopes for this series. So I'm excited that Sheila is a part of that. Hey, Robin, good to see you. Oh, good, Tara. Says timing was right, and I put my best foot forward, and it paid off. That's exactly right. In the coaching, a lot of what I'm talking to people about is just that. There's a lot about this process you can't control. There's a lot about acting and auditioning that is completely out of your control. Things like physicality and do you look right next to the actor playing the other part? Do you fit a family unit? Is the overall big picture right? You can't control that. All you can control is what you present, your materials, your tools, your headshots, your reels, your websites, your all of that. You control that. So the things you do have control over, do with excellence and make sure they are sharp and that you are at the top of your game with regards to the things you can control. And the things you can't, we let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Yes, we let it go. I know, easier said than done, but that is the goal. Okay, question, Teresa. I love that you have a question. Self-tapes. Would you prefer a reader who is able to be present in person, better sound quality, but is not a great actor, or a reader on Zoom who is a good actor? I would prefer a reader on Zoom who's a good actor. I think there's less risk of the reader creating a distraction for you. Not only, well, a distraction in general, not only a distraction for us, sometimes really bad readers, it can be hard to buy into it and not allow a really poor reader to kind of take your brain off of the wonderful actor and we're thinking about how bad the reader is, but also to you, because you want to give yourself every opportunity for success as well. And the more that you can immerse yourself in the scene, the more that you can just live within the scene and exist as the character within these circumstances, the better your performance is going to be. So if you are in any sort of preoccupied with the reader not being strong enough or the pacing isn't right, if you are at all distracted by that, that's a piece of your thought process, a piece of your concentration that is not going in a productive place. And so I say you're better off with someone on Zoom who's a good actor. And I don't need the sound quality of the reader to be strong. I need to hear the dialogue just for the sake of the scene, but I want you louder anyway. I want your audio to be more prominent anyway. So I don't need to have the reader match your sound level. That's not necessary for a self-tape. So hopefully that answers your question. Hey, Amy. Amy, if you guys don't, Amy Brady is really, 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 really smart. The more I see your posts, Amy, the more I realize that you are just a brilliant human being. So, and did I see you finished? I know you're already very, very well educated, but I saw you posting and I'm trying to remember what specifically that was. But either way, I was seeing your posts and thinking, Amy Brady is very, very brilliant. And yet you're so humble and so sweet. I just love that. Let's see. Angela, when will you be in New Jersey, New York? I don't know. I am trying to get up there to at least visit set, the Abilene set for a day or two. It probably wouldn't be until the middle to end of July. I will be at Focus, the Actors Conference in Franklin, Tennessee in July, which, by the way, it's July 17. I got to look at my calendar. It's July 17, 18. That's in Franklin, Tennessee, and you can find out more info. It's Focus Actors Conference, I believe, .com, something like that. You can Google it. Great conference. They're adding, Diego is not, it, Diego is just the best, isn't he? He's just the absolute best. FocusActorsConference.com. I will be there the 17th and 18th. Diego will be there, I believe. Gary Wheeler's going to be there. Rodney Eldridge, who's the line producer on Abilene, is going to be there. He's produced a lot of different projects, so it's a really great lineup of people. So if you are interested in that, check it out. FocusActorsConference.com, July 17th, 18th. So my thinking is, since I will already be in that half of the country, I might try popping up to upstate New York to the set of Abilene, either before that or after that. So, but nothing is set yet. But I'll let you know when I get that figured out. Let's see. I need to get better as a reader for my son. I have an accent. Accents, and that is something to be aware of. Again, you just don't want it to be a distraction. I don't know as the reader if that really would be an issue, but there's no downside to always pushing yourself to be better, for sure. Let's see. Hannah, as an actor, how do I know when I'm ready for an agent, and what questions should I ask when I meet with one? Okay, so you will want to, you may be ready for an agent as far as your drive or your talent. But what an agent is going to want to see are the other materials that they need in order to market you and submit you successfully. And that is going to be headshots that are really strong, very professional, great headshots, and some sort of video of you acting. So ideally, that would be a reel of performances that you've done and work that you've done on camera. It's a catch-22 because you need the reel to get the job, but you need the job to get the reel. I totally get it. So that's why I'm actually very happy that self-tapes have become an alternative way of showing your acting before you've had the opportunity to book the jobs and build a reel. So I would say your priorities would be to try to build your resume and get opportunities for yourself, meaning self-submit or look for opportunities around where you are to get in front of the camera, to get footage that you can be using for a reel. So that's student films, short films, working with the local film community in your area, and hopefully when you're doing a lot of student films and short films and indie projects, depending on where your local area is, you may end up with some not great finished products, but you don't need the whole movie to be great. You just need to be able to pull 30 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute from a piece that is usable for you. So getting in front of the camera will always be great experience, and it adds to your resume. It adds to just your experience on set and building the materials that an agent will want. So, ideally they want to find people who have a resume already, who have a reel, who are already experienced in front of the camera, experienced on set. If you don't have that, having strong theater credits is also good. Lots of training showing that you are learning and you're training and you're continually working on your craft. And then great self tapes. And I'll tell you, a great self tape can do more for you than a bad clip from a project you did. So don't feel like a self tape is lower than. If it's great, it won't matter. We just need to see you acting. We need to see your performance. We need to understand who you are, what you sound like, what's your tone of voice, what's your just sort of natural physicality in front of the camera. We need to see that to better understand if you are the right fit for the roles that we are working to fill. So, yeah, I would tell you, you're ready to go seeking an agent when you have the tools that the agent will need in order to successfully submit you. Okay. If you don't have any tools, they are stuck and they can't push you or promote you. You're going to get lost in the sea of other actors that are being submitted. So that's what I would work on. And then when you feel like you have a good representation of your acting ability and you have good training, then that may be the time to move forward looking for an agent. As far as what questions to ask, so I think that it's important that you are honest with them about what your goals are, about what your parameters are. So if you happen to be a person of faith and you have certain parameters as far as what you will or won't do, you need to be very clear about those. Oftentimes, I hear actors want an agent so badly that they don't want to mention any of that because they don't want to possibly ruin their chances. But the problem is, you don't tell them, hey, I don't want to do nudity, or hey, I've decided that I don't want to kiss someone who's not my spouse on camera, or I'm not comfortable with profanity. Whatever those parameters are, and keep in mind, those parameters are yours alone to determine. Nobody else, we should not be passing judgment on each other about what one person does and another person doesn't, and this is right and this is wrong. No, every one of you, if you're coming from a spiritual connection, a faith connection, and you're wanting to kind of move your career forward in a way that you feel like honors that, then you are the one who lays your head on the pillow at night and has your conversation with God. You're that person, nobody else. So you are the one who needs to determine and understand and prayerfully consider what those boundaries are for you, and not judge others for what they do or don't do. That's a little bit of a soapbox, but I just think that's really important, because I think sometimes as people of faith, we can get a little bit legalistic about what we think is right and wrong. And yes, there are some, I guess, definitive boundaries that you would typically feel like shouldn't be crossed. But there's a lot of boundaries, a lot of choices that are not right or wrong. It's your journey. It's your path. It's your conversation with God that determines that. So you need to do what's right for you and make those decisions. So it's important, though, that you're honest about those things with a prospective agent, because otherwise you're not going to say anything because you don't want to blow your chances of, getting picked up by an agent. And then they start sending you auditions for things you don't want to do, and you're saying to them, I'm sorry, I can't do this, or I'm not comfortable with this. Well, to them, that's going to be very frustrating because they had no idea. And that is not something you should surprise them with after they've signed you. Okay. Be honest and honorable up front. That's the way that we work in this business with integrity. Other things are, you can ask them, how do they see you, or what's important to them in their clients? What are the things that they would expect from you as an actor? And I think a lot of it is just feeling it out in the moment and kind of just having a conversation, getting to know each other in an honest way. So that's what I'll say about that. Let's see. Any advice? Let's see. Wait. Evelyn is in the room, and I heard your voice. Said, "Hey, I know that voice. Hi, Evelyn. I guess I'm not seeing you, but hello. I'm glad you're in the room." Let's see. Rod Wolf. I love Gary Wheeler. I love Gary Wheeler too. And Jesse Hutch will be there. Yes, Jesse, I believe, is going to be there as well. Jesse's great, wonderful heart. Originally from Canada. Exactly. I think now in Nashville, but originally from Canada. It was Canadians. Let's see. Angela, where can we find more faith-based audition besides Actors Access? My son has a manager and agent, but we had only seen a few. There is not, I'm sorry to tell you, there is not one place to just go and find more auditions. The only way you're gonna, the only way that you'll maybe see more opportunities is by growing your knowledge of the people who are working in the space, who are making the kind of content that you want to be a part of, and following them, being aware of what they're doing. If they, announce that they have a project coming out, or they're talking about releasing something soon, there is no one clearinghouse for right now for all of those auditions. I know there's a couple of places that are working towards providing that, but right now there isn't one place. So it really is about community. It's about learning and talking to each other, about being a part of various communities of around certain filmmakers, and being in touch, signing up for their newsletters, or their communications or blogs or updates. That's not a scientific approach, but there is no clean and easy way right now. So the best thing is to just be as informed and as connected as you can be. Let's see. Okay. Hannah, I do have some video of acting from classes and self-submitted opportunities. Thank you. So glad. It sounds like I'm on the, yes, you are. You are. And just make sure any self-tape has to be great. Okay. You can't have a mediocre self-tape. It will not. It will not sell you well. It will not represent you well. If you're going to use a self-tape, because it's one thing to have a scene from a film you were a part of, and we could look at it and go, okay, not great filmmakers, but their performance, this actor's performance was great. And we can, within reason, forgive a little bit of a poorer, maybe production quality, if the performance is great. But a self-tape, if the performance isn't great, there's nothing to point to for that except for the actor. So make sure your self-tapes, if that's what you're starting with, are great. Let's see. Any advice on getting my 14-year-old son connected to an agent that focuses more on wholesome material? Previously had an agent based out of New York. Most agents were not faith-based, had material he didn't want to be a part of. It's the same thing I just said. There isn't a set place. Now, there are agents who happen to be people of faith, so they might understand the parameters a little better, and maybe be more sensitive to it than an agent who doesn't have any spiritual connection and really is just focused on the numbers of and the dollars of it. That's probably not someone who's a great fit for you. But so maybe trying to find an agent that who will understand and will respect and embrace that choice that you're making for the kind of content that your son is doing. And I get a lot of questions like, where do I find a Christian agency? You don't need a Christian agency necessarily. Like, for example, Diego's a great example now that he's an agent with Anthem. Yes, he's obviously very connected to the faith-based space and to the filmmakers who are working in the space. He knows a lot about, who's doing what, but he's also going to submit on other projects. He's going to submit on episodics and, different opportunities. There's no reason why you couldn't do a rom-com or something that doesn't have some of those issues that you might be concerned about, but they're not necessarily faith-based. And the filmmakers may not be people of faith. And quite honestly, just for the sake of making the numbers work, you want to be pursuing, as an agent, you want to be pursuing every opportunity for your clients, because their success is also your success as well. So this idea of I need to find a Christian agency, I think is a little bit misguided. What you want to find is an agency or an agent who understands your faith, the choices you're making as a result of your own individual faith journey, and who will respect it, who will understand it, and who will support you in that. Okay. And you may find they're not a Christian, but they still respect and support that for you. That's what you need to find. Because I would caution you against just making yourself so narrow and that you don't push yourself to bigger and greater things if the opportunity comes along. I was watching clips from the K-Love Awards that took place. They took place a couple weeks ago, I think, or at least a week ago, but I think they just played on Friday night. I was excited. Imagine 2 won for Best Film Impact, which was beautiful to see. It's always nice when you see work that you do is having an impact. But Brandon Lake won for, I think, Male Vocalist of the Year. And, and he said, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, I'm never going to turn my back on the church. I'm never going to walk away from the church, but I am going to continue to walk into places that need light. And he's going to continue to walk into dark places because God has given him light, life, freedom. And who needs the light? The darkness. So at that, I thought was quite a challenge, and something that we should all be thinking about is how can we best be a light in the darkness? And I think I'm speaking for myself here as someone who has worked in the faith-based genre for many years. I sometimes get a little comfortable in that. It's safe. And I need to be open to where God might want to use me in the future. I don't know what that looks like. For now, he continues to open the doors in this space, but I need to be willing and available to go into a dark place if that's what God is calling me to do and equipping me to do. So just a little bit of a challenge for you that way. Let's see, Amy. I just got another degree. Oh my gosh, I told you, Amy is brilliant. So she just got another degree, a PhD in biotechnology. Did that to learn how to do translational research. My son Noah has a rare genetic disease, and there was no research on his disease. So I just did what any mom would do, go back to school to learn how to do research to find a possible drug to help treat not only my son, but others living with this disease. Oh my gosh, Amy, that is amazing. Congratulations. Absolutely. Congratulations. That is just so beautiful. Um, oh, and you think you found one, a drug. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. You guys, let's put Amy and her son on our prayer list as she's doing this new work, new research that could not only help her son but others. That's tremendous. Congratulations, Amy. That's just beautiful. Okay. Uh, yes, Amy Diego does rock. Linda, fully agree with you. No judgment. And Angela. Let's see, Blake, being that a lot of faith-driven family productions don't shoot SAG, would it be wise to wait until you're in a must-join situation? Is non-SAG talent less marketable for these types? Um, I always, I'm always been of the opinion that you're best to wait to join SAG until you have a really good reason to join. I think the sweet spot is in that middle place where you're SAG eligible, but you haven't joined yet, which means you can do all of it. You can do anything you want. Once you join, you're making a commitment to turn down any non-SAG work unless you ultimately decide to go FICOR, financial core. And that's a whole nother conversation. But this is where, again, we need to be people of integrity. If we're saying we are people of faith and that's important to us, then we need to try to be people of integrity, and that includes when you sign on to SAG and say, okay, I'm not going to do any non-union. That's a conundrum if you have a non-union piece you want to do. So I know a lot, again, it is not for me to dictate to you. And a lot of people have various reasons that they feel comfortable with that, and ways that they've kind of found an in for that. That is not for me to judge or to, say yay or nay. It's just something that I think sometimes actors are so quick. I got to join SAG. I got to join SAG. Then you join SAG and you realize, oh my gosh, I've now limited what I can do. So if you are in a right to work state, there's actors like Bonnie Johnson on here. I think, Bonnie, you've been SAG eligible like for a very long time. If you live in a right to work state, you don't have to join. You can continue to be SAG eligible because they can't force you to join in order to work in those states. So that's a whole nother topic, and maybe we'll cover that one of these sessions. Let's see. So Blake, the question is, when you have a good reason to join SAG, meaning it's a really important job that you want to take and you're going to have to join to do it, because like imagine the Wonder Projects, like some of those sort of higher profile, bigger productions are typically SAG. So you would need to go SAG in order to be a part of those, or be SAG eligible, depending on where it's shooting. It may be that if it's in a right to work state, as long as you're SAG eligible, it's fine. but I wouldn't rush to join and just join when it makes sense. But you're right. There's a lot of faith family stuff that is shot non-union. So that's just something you're going to have to balance and make that decision for yourself. The option is if you join SAG and you realize, oh my gosh, I'm missing out on a lot of opportunities and a lot of work in projects that would mean a lot to me and that I really believe in, then Financial Core is an option for you. So, okay. Tara, let's see. Headshots in Austin, ABM photography, if I can share that in April. I did research on agencies, found one that matched what I was looking for. The agency reached out 2 days after I submitted and filling out their form today was my, oh, good. That's awesome. I love that. That's great. Carolyn, are there hotbeds around the country where faith-based films are made? How often do casting directors look outside the place where it's being filmed? The Southeast is really the kind of main hub for faith-oriented projects. I think partially just because that's where a lot of the filmmakers happen to be from. Those are also, there's more states in the Southeast that have tax incentives. So it's more common, but you have states like Utah, New Mexico, a couple of different states that have incentives. Really, the filmmakers are going to go where the incentives are and what matches, first of all, what matches their film creatively, and then where do they get the best incentives. And it just so happens that the Southeast has a lot of places where they could get that done, and a lot of filmmakers live in the Southeast. So, and yes, we look outside of local, but there's a cost associated to hiring someone who's not local. And productions, there's a point in which productions can't fly in everybody. There are roles that have to be local hire. So that's where I am with Abilene right now. All the roles that are left have to be local hire for budget reasons. I don't have the option of flying someone in and paying for hotel and per diem and flight hire. So, maybe when we first started out, we don't know exactly which roles will end up being local hire. It's a piece of, it's like a pie that we're constantly taking slices from. And then when that travel budget pie is all sliced up and given out, there's nothing left. So it has to be local hire. And every production, other than, the $100 million huge productions, every production is going to reach a point. Some of them, all they can do is travel in 1 or 2 characters, and the other 20 all have to be local hire. Sometimes it's 50-50. Every production is going to be different. But when we get to the point where there's just no more budget for travel, then it has to be local hire. Let's see. Okay. Chase, when you advocate for an actor to a producer or director, what specific qualities make you willing to spend political capital on that actor? That's a good question because, we are careful. If I'm going to advocate for an actor or push for an actor, I have before, where the director comes back to me and says, I'm sorry to tell you, but this person slowed us down, or this person really couldn't handle the role, or this person wasn't great. We kind of had to cut around them. And that crushes me. The director's not angry or mad, but it does make me go, okay, I've got to be really careful about those people I put forward. I have to have a strong confidence level. So I am not going to put forward anyone unless I really know that they can deliver. So the qualities are great actor. Number one, great actor. Easy to work with, someone who's a team player and who will make the set a more enjoyable place to be, who will bring positivity to the set and to the process and to the other actors. Someone who is a hard worker and shows up, is ready, is prepared, is professional, and who over delivers basically, and who is loving being there, loving being part of the process, is grateful for the opportunity and doesn't waste it. That's what's important to me when I'm putting someone forward. And I'm very careful about it. I really am, because my reputation is at stake. And it's not even just about my reputation, because that sounds so ego different. It makes me sad to find out that someone I recommended hurt the production in a negative way or affected the production in a negative way. And that knowing that the only reason they're likely in the production is because I pushed so hard for them, and to know that it hurt them, the pacing or their ability to get their days or the edit process, makes me really sad. So yes, it's my reputation, but it's more so I care about the production and the project, that I don't want to do anything that would hurt it or hinder it. So let's see. Yeah, Nashville is up and coming a lot. Texas, Utah, exactly. Okay, you guys, I'm going to have to jump off. I know that there's I see Betty, you're going to focus. Awesome. That's great. Yeah, yeah. So I'm reading your comments. I am going to end up missing a few of them. So I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody, but ask it again next week. Okay. I'll be back next week. I love being back with you guys. I love the questions. I love the dialogue. This is my favorite part of getting together with you all. So thank you very much for joining in and sticking. Monica, go to focus. That'd be awesome. We'd love to see you. And I hope you have a great week, and speak encouragement to each other. And let's take Brandon Lake's encouragement and open up, pray for God to show us where our light is needed, and then let's just go be light. Let's go be light wherever he sends us. So, all right, love you guys. Have a great rest of your evening, wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you next Tuesday. Bye.